for us, it's all about our listeners. We do spend time on the Hill, obviously, trying to educate members and their staff and to really talk specifics and data with them. But in the end, they respond more than anything to what the public is saying. So we've always relied on listeners to be our sort of our umph in the Capitol, and we're doing it by using the means at our disposal, which is the service itself. So it's a great way to reach people because we can do it not just one-to-one and using audio messaging and images, etc. We can also do it targeted because we know geography. So if we want to ask someone to call a member, we can actually give them the name and phone number of their member in the email. So it's an incredibly powerful way to reach people. And we just did sort of a tranche the last couple of weeks just to sort of give folks on the Hill a sense of what Pandora listeners at least are thinking. But I think this is really just the beginning. Hopefully they'll. And I think the feedback is people heard from a lot of people across the Hill. So I would think they would at this point they'd be thinking, oh, there's a big audience out here that sort of feels this is unfair, and we ought to take a look at it. Well, we have the great luxury of having been early to it. When we launched on the iPhone, it was the day the App Store launched. We were there. So there were maybe a dozen music apps at the time, if that. So I think we were lucky that there was a small number of choices. That's the first thing. But then it's pretty straightforward word of mouth at that point. I think people got a chance to use it and see it on this very small list, and everybody loved it just about. And then the next thing they said was, tell your friends. And then that created a sort of virtuous cycle. People told their friends, who told their friends, who told their friends. And when you walk into an Apple store, if you ask an Apple, one of the Apple representatives in the store, hey, what app would you recommend? Pandora's on the top tip of their tongue. So you've got this kind of steady drumbeat of, people recommending it. If we were starting now, it'd be a different story, I think. Right. It's so many apps. You need to put a lot more marketing, third-party marketing behind it, I think. You need a large amount of feedback to get meaningful data from that. And we have that, we have the good fortune of having, a pretty steady drumbeat of information coming back, large scale. And what does it not teach us? It really, there's not a nook or cranny of Pandora that hasn't been responded to by Pandora listeners. Some feature or lack thereof that hasn't been called out or criticized or applauded. So it's, and it's like being, on a runway with a new jacket. People are commenting all the little things about it. You're under a microscope, and it's, gosh, I think it's incredibly valuable. I think that the one thing you have to be careful of, though, is when people give feedback, there's a tendency for your real power users to be the more vocal among them. And if your interest is in creating a service that has very, very broad appeal, you always have to remember that this person might have a very strong feeling about a feature, but it's not really applicable to 9 out of 10 listeners. And so you have to be careful about, don't be overly swayed by a small vocal minority. Listen and absorb and learn from them, but make sure that you're always balancing that against, what's going to make Pandora successful in the 90%. So, it's tricky.